Hey everyone, Chris here for Thomann's Guitars and Basses. Welcome to Guitar Tech Tips Q&A number 14. Without further ado, let's start with the first comment, which came from Alien Love. I need help with the lead Fender series fixed bridge. How can I lower the action? It's exactly the same thing as a normal tremolo bridges for strats and strat style guitars, such as this one. You will have to adjust the action on the saddles themselves. You'll find 2 screws on each and every saddle, and you can adjust every saddle independently from the others to have the ideal height for that specific string. The next one is from Kathleen. I have a problem with the fret buzzing in the middle and higher register. What can be the problem? My guitar is a Music Man Sterling Indonesia. It doesn't really matter what brand guitar you have. This is a classic issue with the neck relief. So the thing is, if the neck isn't ideal, which means that it's almost straight with a slight bow, then you'll have fret buzz somewhere. You need to loosen the neck a little bit, and then you always have just enough space between the string and the top of the fret to let it ring. That's really all you have to do. Loosen the neck a little bit. If it's a Music Man or a Sterling, you'll have the adjustment wheel probably here at the bottom of the neck. Just loosen it a little bit and see if that fret buzz goes away. If you need to adjust the action because it will become higher, of course, you can set up the bridge to compensate for that change. Next one is from Arif Faisal, and we're still talking about neck-body relations. Is it possible to raise the neck from the body with a no-angled shim? My bridge height is at its lowest level and it's uncomfortable. How do you compensate the situation? Thanks. There are no angled shims, so you can do that, but unless you have issues with setting up the pickup height, which is something that's very limited, of course, I wouldn't use a no-angled shim. In this case, you said that the bridge is at its lowest and it's still not really working. In that case, I would use an angled shim. Maybe not something radical, but something that makes sure that the neck has a bigger angle compared to the body, which means it's tilted to the front. With that, you will have to raise up the bridge to have an ideal string action, which will then be much more comfortable, of course, because you say it's not comfortable to play the guitar like that, and that's still going to work with the pickups, which is exactly what you want. If you just have a no-angled shim, you raise the neck, but you might change some other things about the guitar setup that's not really ideal. The least amount of change is an angled shim, which means that you only have to readjust the bridge, come higher with the bridge, which is exactly what you wrote that you want. This next one is from Last Jedi. Any ideas on why my neck pickup's signal sounds weak? When I have the volume pot on 10, it sounds like it's on 4. I've swapped pickups before with no problem. Any usual suspects you can think of? Well, there are quite a few things that come in my mind. Some of them are very obvious, but still, I gotta say them. So the first thing is, it might just be a pickup that is much quieter, has a lower output compared to the other ones you are used to, or compared to the one that was in the guitar earlier. That would be, of course, very obvious, and you probably checked that, so yeah, just as told, needed to be said. Another option is, of course, that there's an issue with the switch on that lug where you solder the neck pickup. This might just happen after soldering some sort of a material issue. So you can definitely swap the neck pickups and the bridge pickups position. Whether it's a toggle switch, you didn't write what kind of guitar that is. Could be a toggle switch, could be a normal blade switch. Just swap the cables coming from the neck pickup and the bridge pickup, which means that your switch is gonna work inverse. It's gonna be weird, but you can check what's up with the output of those pickups. If all of a sudden the bridge pickup is weaker after resoldering, like swapping the positions, then it's clearly not the pickup's fault. If it's still the neck pickup that's much, much weaker than the other one, then it's obviously not the rest of the electronics. So not the pods, not the switch, not any of those. With that, you found out that it's literally the pickup that is much weaker than you expected it to be. The next thing I would do is grab a multimeter and measure the impedance of that pickup. You can always look up what it should have, like whatever, 7 or 10 kilo ohms, and check the pickup if it's in that ballpark. Minor differences are absolutely normal, but if it says 4 instead of 12 or 8, that's a way too big difference. So that means that there is something going on in the pickup itself, which means that it's faulty or something just went wrong. So that's the next thing. And if that's right, that's exactly how it's supposed to be, then it's just much quieter than how you expected it to be, or much quieter than, for example, the other pickup, like the bridge pickup. And in that case, it's not really compatible unless you can get used to it and can play with the pickup heights to make them work and have some sort of a balance that you like. Android gameplays for everyone. Who asks, silly question, how do I know when I have to replace my guitar nut? It's very simple. First of all, you make sure that the guitar neck relief is fine, that it's not crazy, there's no bow in it or anything that's out of the ordinary, and then just pick an open string. And if that buzzes, then you have an issue. If you have that with multiple strings, then it's an even bigger issue. And that's the clear sign for that nut to be replaced or fixed or raised up. But replacing a nut is the best solution, really, because that's where, unless it's a vintage guitar, of course, that's just the most stable, most reliable way of having a working guitar for the next 10 to 20 years. The next one is more of a statement, not really a question, but I can absolutely relate. So it's from Freakish. I love my vintage reissue telly, but man, I hate adjusting the truss rod on it. Yeah, you're not alone. It's just something that you get used to, and I can understand why many people hate this this method, which means that you actually have to remove the neck to access the screw head where you can actually adjust the truss rod. Good thing is, if you have a guitar for a couple of years where wood is dry enough, everything's settled in, you barely have to adjust it. For example, on my main telly, I take off the neck once a year just to make sure that it still moves, it's not stiff. It's just really an insurance policy, and not because it's necessary. So that was different in the first couple of years when I bought the guitar. After some time, necks will become more stable, and you don't really have to deal with that too often. Also, it's part of the vintage vibe, so I got used to it. But hey, I feel you. Next one is from Derek Amarpreet Whitman. Sorry if I mispronounced your middle name. Pardon the dummy question. There are no dummy questions. But which coil is active when you split the coil in a push-pull pot? The inside or the outside? You cannot really give a generic answer because the one coil that's hotter than the other will remain active. The other one will get muted by ground. It really depends on the manufacturer. Sometimes they will pay attention to making one coil consistently hotter than the other. With that, they can of course control if the inner or the outer coil is gonna remain active once you split the coils. But sometimes I guess this is just random. So there's no generic answer. The one that's hotter is gonna survive. The last one is from Hanneman 450. Does the neck need to be super straight when replacing the nut? Kind of yes, but not straight as a ruler necessarily, unless that's the way you want your guitar to be set up to begin with. The point of filing the little slots in the guitar nut is that you have to have the neck and the whole guitar set up the way you want to have it, right? The way you want to play it every single day, because that will tell you how deep these little grooves should be for the strings. And of course, you can check it. We have an episode, I'll put the link in the upper corner. This is where you will end up having an ideal nut height. And if you file the grooves for a loose neck. That's much better for bending than for like shreddy stuff. That might be an issue once you change that neck curve. So depending on how you like your guitar being set up, or your bass, exactly the same info. It's just, you know, thicker strings versus thinner strings. You need to make sure that the neck is set up in a way how you like it anyhow, and then change that nut and file those grooves. Thanks so much for all the questions. I really like seeing them, and it's so cool to see how many people jump in the comment sections and give their answers and share their experience, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you for joining the club. This was Guitar Tech Tips. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. And of course, don't be afraid of setting up and fixing your guitars yourself. It's time to become your own guitar tech.